The Sound of Money with Santosh Sirur.
Hello and welcome to another episode of The Sound of Money with me, Santosh Sirur. On this episode of The Sound of Money, we're going to talk not just about investment planning, banking, etc., but an area that is very important to be into investment planning or banking or any area of be it banking, insurance, or mutual funds, etc. The reason being, we're going to talk about academia, the importance of knowledge, the importance of being understanding what to do and how to do and where to do once you get into a job. And this is the reason why this particular episode is important for students, especially, and of course, working professionals, as you've been our audiences. And joining me today is Dr. Harsimran Sandhu, who is a professor of finance at the Institute of Management Technology, Ghaziabad, and also he's the area chairperson for finance. Harsimran has had an amazing experience of over 2 decades in two big organizations, one being Standard Chartered Bank and the other being Birla Sun Life AMC. He was an executive director in Standard Chartered Bank and was in the front line, that is the front office in Birla Sun Life AMC. So let's welcome our guest today. Hi, Harsimran, and welcome to the
Uh,
Sound of Money.
Thank you. Thank you, Santosh. Thank you for being at that show. Thank you.
Harsimran, the first question, of course, is you've been in almost 2 decades in corporate work, right? And that to amazing organizations. How come you took a step towards academia, and now you are a professor? So I think that journey is very important for our listeners to know, because there are a lot of listeners who probably have that equal or more experience, who are interested in moving into academia, because they can also share their rich learnings from the corporate culture. Yeah, so yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So thanks, Santosh. This seed of going into academia and teaching was right there in the beginning. I did my MBA, and this seed was always there with my.
Hmm.
And the moment I started with my career with Birla Mutual Fund, which was an amazing organization to start with, lays the foundation for my investment knowledge,
Hmm.
my passion for investments again. Started from there, more or less. We had some amazing people like Bala Subramaniam, who's the current this thing, Navneet
Yeah.
Manot. So
Yeah.
these were the people. And then I moved on to Standard Chartered, and at around about 5 to 6 years in the job within Standard Chartered, I realized that I need to give it back to the society also, because I
Yeah.
feel there is a huge gap between how educational institute impart knowledge and
Hmm.
what industry needs. I always see that gap between, because I used to go for a couple of guest lectures in Bombay,
Yeah.
some of the institutes.
Hmm.
So, but my move, Santosh, was a little planned one. So
Hmm.
I wanted to go completely with full qualifications to the academia world.
Yeah.
So somewhere in about 2014, I decided to pursue my doctoral program at IIM Indore,
Hmm.
and enrolled myself for in the area of finance and accounting. It's about a 3 to 4 year kind of a full part-time program,
Hmm.
because that time I think there was no other IIM who was giving a doctoral program, and I wanted to do from a premier institute. So
Hmm.
IIM Indore was the only institute at that point of time
Hmm.
which was giving this opportunity to pursue a doctoral program along with your job. Though
Hmm.
it was very challenging, because I was working at a full-time job
Yeah.
with Standard Chartered, and then this is a full-time. More or less, the standards are the same as a full-time doctoral program, and the conditions are same, because obviously
Yeah.
you're carrying the brand name of I'm Indore there. So I kind of completed my doctoral program at about 2019,
Hmm.
and by 2020 I was ready to kind of shift to the academia world, and the opportunity came in shape of IMT Ghaziabad, which is
Hmm.
again a premier institute in the country among the private institute, and that there was a shift. So my suggestion is, people who are looking maybe to shift into academia, I think there are two ways. One is that they can look as a visiting faculty, to be a part of a certain course, which is
Mm.
also taught by a full-time faculty of academia. So basically, they bring in the industry knowledge, the industry norms,
Mm.
and the normal professors obviously build the base for
Yeah.
the theoretical background of
Yeah.
various subjects. So that's the
Mm.
another way. The
Mm.
other way that you can always we look at people with about substantial experience of about 15 to 20 years to join the academy as an adjunct faculty.
Mm.
So they have to teach for certain number of hours in the institute and be at the institute for certain period during the month as well.
Mm.
And also they look at institute for various consulting opportunities within the institute also. So they look at not only look at only to teaching, but they also
Yeah.
look at consulting and some of the other areas which institute is keen to
Mm.
collaborate on. So yeah, so and obviously the third opportunity which I took was the more serious one, which
Yeah.
completely into academia. There you need a doctoral program. Doctoral program is a minimum qualification that you need
Mm.
to join and manage. So these are the three ways I would say that industry professionals who are interested in teaching
Yeah.
and can shift in the area.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mm.
Harsimran, as a faculty, now that you're on the other side, right, from the industry, now that you're on with the academia, do you think the industry has done enough for the universities and the students, or is there any more scope? And if so, then what one needs to do, from an
Mm.
industry standpoint, rather from an university standpoint, that the industry needs to do uh, for these students?
So, Santosh, one area which I personally feel is lacking within the
Mm.
industry and also in academia. I'm not blaming the industry alone in this,
Yeah.
but I think the constant engagement is somehow missing. They come at the time of summer placement and they come at the time of final placements and maybe a
Mm.
couple of get sessions. So that
Yeah.
constant engagement, I would say, is
Yeah.
missing because
Mm.
I think right from the curriculum, which
Mm.
has to be because if you're in a business school, the curriculum has to be maybe industry oriented, and certain number of lectures have to be taught by the industry practitioners.
Yeah.
Because if it's a 3 credit course which is 30 hours, I personally believe that about 7 to 8 hours in that
Mm.
30 hours has to be taught by industry professional to get to the students what is happening in the industry and how to connect what has been taught by the academic
Mm.
community
Yeah.
happening in the industry. So that I would say, Santosh, the constant engagement
Mm.
is somehow missing. I just want to take two examples here
Yeah.
to build this constant engagement. Recently, we established the Center for Financial Markets,
Mm.
where we are looking at collaborating with the regulators, industry people, as well as the academics as well.
Okay.
So this provides a common platform for exchange of ideas, writing research papers, solving industry problems. So
Mm.
we might establish one center in Bombay. There's already a center at Ghaziabad, and we are already collaborating with number of industry projects which our students are working with along with the faculty. So that's one of the examples that we've created that platform.
Yeah.
The second example is that we have a excellence in business consulting, where
Mm.
we are collaborating with the organization like KPMG, Deloitte, to bring the consulting firms. What is happening there? We want to bring the consulting firms to the council room and
Mm.
also solve certain issues that the consulting companies
Industry.
are
Yeah.
facing,
Facing.
and
Yeah.
obviously,
Mm.
so these are the two areas which IMT has kind of looked at,
Mm.
and I think we need to create these common platforms where industry, students, and faculty can come together to
Yeah.
solve certain problems. I think that's something which is required at this point of time.
Yeah, so that's very interesting. You mentioned that missing link that was always there. You guys, as an academia or the universities, have now thought of coming up with some option where
Yeah,
you reach out to the industry or to these
yeah,
corporates. But maybe there is also a need from the corporates then to reach out to you guys, that is the university. Or the reason being that, as you rightly said, right, they are normally available only on the weekends or one-off
mm,
sessions, or maybe come during these placement times, right? But you need to have a consistent engagement. So maybe industry federations like CII, etc., also could
mm,
come in and reach out. The reason where I'm coming, the question that is coming is, that the timing of the country today, India, right? It's on. I mean, it's already kind of taken off almost there, but it is really heading on a different orbit, right?
yeah,
Right. So what is very important is having the right demographic population, which is the age group, which is a young population, which is an absolute advantage for a country like India. It's important that we build up the right skill sets, because if you're going to have companies coming in India and at the same time the companies already existing in India growing, then where is the skill set, right? That's very
correct.
important. And more importantly, because it's not the Mumbais and the Delhis or the Bangalores of the world, but you may have, and you do have, very good talent in the tier 2 and tier 3 cities, and that needs to be tapped. So I
Mm,
think that may probably go a long way where these corporates and universities come together.
mm.
How has been the experience so far with these two initiatives that you've taken as a part of your group?
Yeah. So, Santosh, I just want to add to the idea which you have kind of just spoken about, is that we need more skilled people in specific industries.
Yeah.
The way we paint academia is that, MBA is common and finance is all
Hmm.
common across sectors. So,
Yeah.
so you require a specific kind of manpower or skilled manpower for financial services. You need
Yeah.
a specific manpower for consulting.
Hmm.
So basically, what I'm looking at is that these like, for example, the Center for Financial Markets looks at various avenues, saying that, okay, well, so wealth industry needs a specific kind of people within the
Hmm.
wealth. So there's
Yeah.
certain set of mindset. Okay,
Yeah.
so the people coming from the wealth industry in the classroom, or the students working with the wealthy people on certain projects which they can go along with. So a certain skill, a specific skill is required. So
Yeah.
certain base knowledge, obviously, about finance is required, but I over above, then you read some certain specific. So what
Yeah.
we are focusing in Center for Financial Market is to work on these specifics for
Hmm.
consulting, for wealth management, for investment banking, for private equity. We want all these people to come work
Hmm.
with us. I'm not saying that they should come for employment, but I'm saying just to train our students
Yeah.
what exactly where the industry is. If you look at 10 years back, the wealth industry was in a completely different space. Right now,
Hmm.
the wealth industry is a completely, thanks to all the regulations that have come, the
Yeah.
scale it has grown to. Now the
Yeah.
requirements are completely different,
Hmm.
and the books are little lagged in behind in terms of updating all these concepts. It's
Agree. Yeah.
then we have to look towards these industry people, saying that, okay, what is happening, where is the industry evolving, and
Yeah.
what do you think, what are the skills required? And if you let me go back to Standard Chartered, when we were looking for to hunting for talent, it is very
Yeah.
difficult to get right talent,
True.
and you
True.
would agree for that. So if
Absolutely.
if industry or academia comes together
Yeah.
to hone this talent up, at least it is for their advantage, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely.
And you remember that Standard Chartered used to have this graduate program where
Hmm.
we used to pick up people from the top institute, and every student used to get it to exposure to all the facets
Yeah.
of the
Yeah.
bank, and finally
Every
used to
month
end
they
up in
would.
one set.
Yeah.
And if you look
Eventually.
at
Yeah.
the current leadership of Standard Chartered Bank, also most of the leaders come from that graduate program.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you raise a right point. Actually, coming into the due diligence space, right? A lot of foreign banks in India where client due diligence is a very important area. It's not just
Mm,
that goes beyond KYC, right?
correct.
And not just onboarding of those clients, but even maintaining the life cycle management. There is a dearth of talent, but that's really missing. The point is the missing link just to get that right candidate is very very
Mm,
important, right? And
mm,
a lot of KYC shops from foreign banks are moving into places like Hyderabad, Bangalore,
correct.
Delhi, Mumbai, Chennai. But the
Correct.
problem is it's talent. So what happens is within that same pool of students,
Mm,
rather the same pool of employees, they are moving from one bank to another one. Of course, their
correct.
careers are growing, but end of the day, it's the same bunch of kids, right, who are really moving from one place to another.
Correct.
The other question I have for you, Harsimran, is now that you're in the university here, what is the skill set that you have now? Now that you're a part of the university, right? What are the kind of skill sets you find with the kids now? Because this is a very new generation of students, right? They are more tech savvy. They are more smarter. They've got a lot of access to information. So the reason why I ask you this question is a lot of my audience comes from the corporate world, right? They get to
Mm,
also know what's happening in the university space, and not just IMT, but otherwise. So maybe if you
mm.
could share that.
So, so if you look at specifically for IMT about, and this could be true for most of the business schools,
Yeah.
I would say 65 to 70% of the kids don't have any corporate experience.
Hmm.
The first time they hit a corporate is at the time of a summer placement. And
Yeah.
maybe the other 30% would have about maximum about 3 to 4 years of corporate experience, and then they then they come to a business school to kind of pursue their full-time degrees as well. So I think if you look at the current generation, they want to learn. They
Hmm.
want to learn very quickly. Um, the problem is that the information streams are very so they have many information available at the internet, there are books available, and obviously the professor. So the job of the professor then becomes that how to synthesize everything and link to
Mm,
the industry.
mm,
That is something which I think most of the business schools should focus on. And this bunch of students are smart,
yeah.
but I think there is one thing which is lacking here is that they are very impatient as well.
Mm,
So to get so if they don't get anything, so they get a little impatient,
yeah.
which I
Yeah.
think are so that's something which I think these kids have to kind of improve on.
Mm,
Otherwise, I think hunger for knowledge, hunger for getting immediately summer placement into a right company is something which this thing. So two, three things which I just want to focus on. One is for the from the organization point of view. Uh, Once they get into an organization, what organization needs to focus on is on their culture, because
mm,
culture ensures that how long the recruitment
yeah.
process stays, or how long is the student going to stay with the company. That is
Mm,
extremely important. It's not the salary, I would say, sorry to say, it is
yeah.
not the salary, but it's the culture of the organization
That makes
that
a
then
difference.
you that
Yeah.
defines your how long is you going to stay in the organization.
Mm,
And that's the job of obviously everybody in the organization. Culture is not somebody who comes from the top management. So
yeah.
that's something which I normally I was speaking to somebody also, it's become very important.
Mm,
Second, I think what we are working on with these kids is the industry orientation,
mm,
saying that a certain mannerism, a certain, because they have never been exposed to a corporate world,
mm,
certain nuances of certain industry. Because for example, I come from a financial services industry, so there
yeah.
are certain nuances of financial services industry.
Mm,
I teach wealth management, fixed income,
yeah.
but along with the course, what I teach is certain nuances of the organization, how to deal with people. Ultimately,
Mm,
Santosh, you have also worked in the
yeah.
corporate. Ultimately, it all boils down to how do you deal with other people,
Yeah. Yeah.
ultimately.
Stakeholder management is
And
very, very
stakeholder
important
management, extremely
and
important.
yeah.
50,
And
60% of the
of
job
course,
gets
and
done. And
collaborative work environment. Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
How to collaborate, how to
Yeah.
collaborate. Ultimately, is all about no
True.
single person can succeed in organization if he's not collaborating with different
Yeah.
parts of the organization.
Yeah.
So that's something which I completely this thing. And happy to share that IMT has about 30 to 40% people who have industry backgrounds,
Mm,
who have come full time into academia. We have a person within finance area who had about 45 years working with HSBC,
mm,
retired at a senior level, now joined as a faculty. Some of his insights are phenomenal in the
yeah.
risk management area. He also kind of delivers in the same way which I do. So
Mm,
I think the good part is that the students are getting to understand the nuances of certain industries,
mm,
as well as how to look at the base knowledge of
yeah.
various subjects as well.
Yeah. 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 So what we spoke so far is about the technical skill, the domain knowledge, what is called an equally important area, and I'm sure you have come across this, the importance of soft skills. Because
Yeah.
what happens is once you step in day one of your corporate, you have a sudden exposure to a corporate environment, right? You
Mm,
got to have to attend those training sessions. You got to complete your compulsory compliance trainings. That's where
mm,
the life starts. And then you
correct.
have to, on a day-to-day basis, as you rightly say, stakeholder management, understand their issues, can't work in silos. And as students, you probably have been in your own cocoon, which you are now
Correct.
exposed to. So,
Mm.
how has the institute or institutes across India, you feel, are also, what kind of initiatives have been done or taken to improve their soft skills? The reason where this question comes from is you don't have students only from a Mumbai or a Bangalore or a Delhi, right? You have
Mm.
across the spectrum, pan India students coming in, or even from abroad, for all you know, coming into India and for studies. So soft skills is very important factor. So any effort been taken into that space?
Yeah, so let me speak about from my
Yeah,
organization, which is
institution.
IMT
Yeah, yeah.
Ghaziabad. We have hired services of a third party in this case,
Mm,
where they kind of they further hire people from the industry for soft skills. So they
okay.
are professionals, uh, and they are from industry for the academic for soft skills. So a certain before they go for a summer placement or before they go for the final placement, they
Mm,
have to go to a certain series of lectures, as well as certain they're told about certain soft skills about how to speak, how
mm,
to communicate, when to pause, when to
yeah.
listen.
Mm,
These are very maybe basic things, but
yeah, but very
if until
important. Yeah,
very
unless you
important when
really
to speak
be
and when
told.
not to speak actually,
Yeah,
and
and
how to be.
unfortunately, our education system doesn't take care of it in the schools,
Yeah.
right? So
Correct,
yeah,
correct. So we have about I think about 20 to 30 hours of training for each student into these areas. There'll be maybe a 10 to 15-year corporate experience guy will speak to them about the industry, how to speak, how to communicate, how to present themselves. Because I think most of if I think about many times people have good knowledge, but they're not able to present themselves
yeah,
in a specific way, and somehow they don't get
yeah,
through. So
true.
this is extremely important. So we have kind of, and many business schools have done that across the
Mm,
country as well.
mm,
And this organization where you're working with, they impart their services into various other business schools as well across the
mm,
country. Yeah, we have kind of looked at that, and certain areas which maybe because I come from industry, and certain area faculty who also come from industry also tells
yeah,
them about these soft skills
yeah,
and the importance of soft skills within the industry. Because I always tell them that it is not the IQ which will take you long, but it's the EQ that will take you to the
absolutely.
highest level. It's always the how you deal with the other person and
Yeah,
how you make them feel in a meeting
yeah,
actually,
absolutely.
whether somebody is heard or not in the meeting. Extremely important.
True.
Yeah,
And of course, with international banks coming into India, you have that cultural differences, right? Where
correct.
your interactions, because I kind of remember in my organization, when I have interactions with my Indian counterparts, it's very easy. But then my Chinese counterparts, my team here would always
Mm,
ask me, because it's so difficult to talk to a person in Chennai. Because it's so much of a huge difference in the language, the tonality, right? So it's very
correct,
important. It makes a lot of difference. And again, if you have European American banks, it's on a different ball game altogether. One one
correct.
one question for you, Harsimran, before we leave. The question is, we are all talking of this India decade, or even the Amritkal, as we all been talking about. Amazing progress, huge development. How is the mood in the university among the students? Because these are the students who are going to take that India on the next level of orbit, right? So how is it?
Mm.
Is it very extremely optimistic, or how is the real situation on the ground within the university?
I think everybody, I think within the business school community knows that this next 10 years will be India's 10 years, and the
Yeah,
way we have started off with various schemes. So
yeah.
that is one. And second is that special focus on skill.
Hmm,
I think we need to kind of somehow differentiate between skill and education.
hmm.
Could be educated and not skilled for a particular industry.
Yeah,
So if you look at many students who developed skills through various certifications, various industry programs.
yeah.
So skill development, I think, has been, if you ask me, the biggest change in last 5 6 years has been is the area that business schools are looking to develop skills of students for
If
certain
you could
specific.
just add, when you say skills, what kind of skills? What are the areas that you're really uh, hardcore on?
So basically, let me take an example. So
Hmm,
somebody who wants to make a career in investment banking, okay.
hmm,
So
hmm.
base knowledge about finance is necessary, but
Yeah.
is looking specifically for investment banking. You need somebody from industry to come
Yeah.
talk about investment banking, what it means and what it
Hmm,
means right now. Okay,
hmm.
and what
Yeah.
are some of the extra skills required for investment banking? Maybe a spreadsheet modeling. Okay,
Yeah. Hmm,
maybe a merger and acquisition kind of knowledge is required for investment banking at a
yeah.
point of time.
Hmm,
Maybe how exactly an IPO works. Okay,
hmm,
so that's something which somebody who coming from for somebody who wants to look at from a wealth point of view, how to communicate to a client. This is a very,
hmm.
this is not taught in business schools. How to
Yeah.
communicate to a client, when
Yeah.
to say, okay, first meeting you have to maybe stay a little quieter,
Hmm.
let the client speak,
More.
and in
Yeah.
the second meeting you open up. Now
Hmm.
this is never in the books, more or
Yeah.
less.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then you keep saying that, okay, in the first meeting the problem is that everybody wants to show their knowledge in the first meeting, that how
Yeah. You
knowledgeable I
end up
am.
talking
But
so much that the
much,
clients are like,
correct.
"Oh my God, that's too much."
Correct. It's overwhelming for the client also, and you start looking at some jargons which client don't understand in the first meeting. It's always, I think, these small nuances of listening, I think, is
Hmm.
extremely important, which completely miss out.
Uh,
At least I kind of emphasize in my courses as well. Is
okay.
listening is extremely important in the at least in the wealth industry, which I come from about 18 years.
Hmm.
Investment banking, it's all about negotiation. How do you
Yeah.
negotiate when you
Yeah.
step back, when you
Yeah.
say, okay, fine, I'm not going to speak anything for
Yeah.
this time, let
Yeah.
me listen to that, maybe how
Hmm.
much ground I can give. So these are skills, am I right?
Yeah.
These are
Yeah.
not through education. It
Yeah.
is not the betas and the alphas of the
Yeah.
world. It is something
Yeah.
that you have to
You
kind of
you
look at
have
it.
to kind of take it and kind of embed in yourself and
Correct.
move on, right? And learn from
Correct.
it, probably.
Absolutely. So this is some of the points that from skills point of view, we have a communication department which has about 3-4 professors. They work on the communication skills. They work on how to communicate, which language to communicate, how to work in multi-country dimension organizations, because cultures are different. So we are working on all these aspects within the institute.
Interesting. That's fantastic to know. Dr. Harsimran Sandhu, Professor of Finance at Institute of Management Technology, Ghaziabad, and Area Chairperson, Finance. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of The Sound of Money. Truly a pleasure having you. Thank you.
Thank you, Santosh. Thank you. Glad. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And well, with that, we come to the end of this episode of The Sound of Money. Hope you enjoyed this episode as you've enjoyed the other episodes. Thank you once again from me, Santosh Sirur, and Harsimran. Take care.